It's time to plant out my leek seedlings. It's the first week of May. It's a little bit late. I usually plant much earlier. What happened is I planted the wrong seed. So I had seed from 2009 and somehow I ended up planting that in the first video. And so I had to replant, and this is the second planting. So this seed is from 2014. The reason I needed to replant is because I'm trying to improve this variety. So I've selected, multiple generations going on. I want to use the seed from the most recent generation that I've selected because the whole point is to improve the line. A quick synopsis: this is Bulgarian Giant. You can watch my first video on why I'm growing this and what I'm doing. But essentially I'm trying to grow out more seedlings than I ever have, to either do one of two things. I'm going to select either more plants for seed, so I'll end up with more seed, or I'll just have more plants to select better specimens from. I would like to select, of course, both, like more and better, but we'll see what happens. The leeks that I planted first, I have a huge flat of those, and I've had them on the website for sale. I've sold quite a few, but I still have a lot more. If you live in a warm climate where it doesn't get below about 20 degrees, you could still get those in the next week or two and get them in the ground and just grow them all the way through the winter into the next spring. If you live in a colder climate, you're not going to pull that off without some kind of protection because this leek isn't super hardy. I mean, I see some frost damage when it gets below 20 degrees. I don't remember ever having anything outright killed, but definitely some damage. So if you live in a really cold climate, definitely some protection. I would recommend reading Elliot Coleman's books on cold weather gardening. I think one's called 4-Season Harvest. There's two of them. The most recent one is about his commercial farm where he grows year-round in Maine. I think that's an excellent book. I can really recommend anyone in a cold climate to read that book. The one good thing about planting these late is that they seem to get less rust. Rust is a fungal disease. It looks like the color of rust all over the leaves. And I just noticed that when I plant late, which I often do because I'm just busy, they seem to get less of it. So I'm not sure if that's coincidence or not, but I'm kind of going on the working assumption that it's not coincidence. And so for quite a few years now, I've tended to plant them late, actually. So here's what I've done so far. I weeded the bed, I raked the bed flat, and I dug this edge here because it's next to the path and it gets compacted and kind of walked on. I didn't dig it much, I just broke it up so there's some air and water can get down in there real easy. And other than that, we're just going to feed these from the top. And that's how I do most of my gardening. I dig very little. I'm pretty much an advocate of trying no-dig gardening or minimal dig gardening. I just believe that people should be gardening non-dogmatically. If you get real dogmatic and try to do this kind of one system fits all thing, you're just going to end up in trouble. Gardening is not like that. It has to be adaptable. We have so many different climates, soils, work preferences, work ability. There's just so many different things that go into it, and ultimately, if you garden long enough, you will end up with your own system. You're not gonna buy some book that's like, oh, do this and everything's gonna be perfect. That's not gonna end up being your reality. The reality is you're gonna adapt and you're gonna come up with stuff. You're gonna mix and match and find out what works for you. So anyway, I don't dig that much. We'll talk about that some other time though. Okay, let's get these things in the ground. The first thing I'm gonna do is sort these leeks out. I dig all the leeks up pretty much, probably all of them. And I'm going to sort through them, and I'm going to pick out the biggest leeks. If you plant big leeks, you grow big leeks. There is a difference. I've tested it before, and if you don't believe me, take those and plant them in order. Divide them into bundles and plant the biggest ones here, then the next biggest ones, and the next biggest ones. And when I did that to test it, I definitely saw a difference in the bed, just like this, I'm going to dig up all of these leeks. I'm going to sort through them quickly and pick out just the very biggest leeks. If I need to, I can come back and resort the rejects if I don't have enough seedlings by the end. If you get leeks from me through the mail, you're going to get a pretty straight run. I basically either take out or don't count the very smallest ones, but I'm not going to do this because it just takes too much time, and I can't take the time to sort them out. So if you really want like a lot of really big ones, like say 50 or so, you probably should order 100. I'll be using this planting board today because it's convenient. It has marks every 6 inches. If I want to plant stuff 6 inches, I just use the marks. If I want 12 inches, I skip a mark. If I want 3 inches, I go make a mark between 2 marks, etc., etc. It's real versatile, really handy thing to have. Maybe we'll do a video on making one of these sometimes because I'm going to make a few modifications on the next one. But I've had this one for many years and I've used it a lot. I really like it. So I'm just going to lay this out here like this. I'll just go along and plant along these notches. I'm not going to be real uptight about, how evenly spaced they are or how straight the row is or any of that stuff. I just want to get these in the ground and get them growing. Now I'm going to plant these today and they're going to look like crap. They're going to look really sad, and that's okay because they're going to recover just fine. So all these guys are tucked in. They look pretty sad, but they always do. I'm just gonna water them and then let them get established for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever it takes, until I can really see that they're growing, maybe replace a couple of them that need replacing. And when everything's kind of underway and settled in and I get a crop of weeds coming up in between the rows, then I'm going to recultivate this and flatten everything out super nice and neat. At that point, I'll start putting on stuff on top of the bed. If I have like a layer of mulch that's going to slowly feed the plants, that's great. That's what I want. So I'll be putting down some chicken manure, and I'll probably be using a technique that I've developed over the last 4 years or so called manure mats. And I have an article on my blog about that if you want to look it up. Really cool, and it's perfect for leeks like this, perfect. So I can't do that though until these get big enough. So we'll probably do that in midsummer, and hopefully I'll have the time to make a video just on manure mats, and this will be a great example to put it on this bed. Yeah, I may also use things like green grass. If I go to the coast, I'll pick up seaweed and put that on. Just anything that's going to feed the plants and cover and protect the soil. I mean, I don't like huge thick mulches. I'm not going to go buy straw and put it on or anything like that. But if you have a nice thick mulch, especially of stuff that's really high nutritive value like manures and stuff like that, then that's going to make the soil texture on top of the bed much better, and it'll allow, it'll be more porous, and it'll allow exchange of air and water into the soil easily, keep it from drying out as fast, and of course every time I water it from the top, it's washing down the nutrients from this like rotting mulch. So I really like to do that, especially with the leeks. Some crops I do it on, some I don't, but leeks definitely, I will put a lot of the best stuff I have on here. I also use a lot of soluble fertilizers. I'm going to use urine, and I'm going to use chicken manure tea, which is almost the same thing because chickens don't pee. So their pee comes out in their poop, and that's why chicken manure is so strong and hot and rich. Human urine is awesome, especially for alliums like leeks and onions. It just really makes them thrive. It's an ideal fertilizer. So I'll use a lot of that through the year probably, a lot of chicken manure tea, and we'll just keep pumping these things up. Hopefully I'll keep up with it since you guys are holding me somewhat accountable in this project because you're watching it. I will try to really do my best to keep up with water and feeding and really pump these things up and see if I can impress you guys with the size. All kinds of things can go wrong with that, of course. And hopefully they won't, because I feel a little bit put on the spot, like I put myself on the spot here to grow you guys some giant leeks. If I really pulled out all the stops and wanted to grow the very biggest, best leeks, I wouldn't really do it the way I'm doing it here. But this is how I actually grow them for food too, basically, is I put them on a fairly close spacing, and then through the year I ruthlessly call out the small ones and the ones that don't meet, the criteria, and I just eat those through the year. I've never actually really pulled out all the stops to see how big I can get these things. If I was really serious, I would probably dig in a bunch of chicken manure and seaweed meal and who knows what. We'll see how it goes. I don't know when I'll see you again on this project. I'm guessing midsummer, early summer maybe, when we put on some manure mat, and also when I can really start to see what I do and don't want to cull, and then we can talk about the traits that I'm selecting for. In the meantime, wish me luck, and I'll see you guys later. I have lots of work to do.